So I just recently picked up an Amtrad PCW9512 Plus. I didn't mean to buy it, but I went to pick up a CRT monitor from a seller, and they also had this Amtrad for sale. It was not working as far as the manufacturer, as far as the seller is concerned. And we turned it on, the screen lit up and stayed white, which I think is normal behavior for those. But we put a disc in, and instantly you could tell the problem was that the drive was spinning up, but there was no resistance, so it probably wasn't engaging with the drive, the actual disc in the drive. And most commonly that's due to drive belts. There are plenty of videos on YouTube about fixing drive belts. This is another one. The only reason I'm making this is because the configuration of the drive is a little bit different from normal, and the size of the band's a little bit different from normal. So the PCW is already part disassembled, and I've already had to go at trying to fix this drive using a generic belt, which didn't work. And the reason for that is that, well, we'll see later on, but that's why it's in this part disassembled state already. So what I did do is order the correct size belt. Internet forums, particularly vintage retro ones, are particularly helpful in trying to track down individual specifications. So I believe this is the correct belt for this drive, and it's quite wide, and that's one of the kind of key features of it. So I've ordered this from DayServe. I've ordered stuff from them before. This video is not sponsored by anybody, certainly not them, but they do have quite a good selection of bits and pieces for retro computers, particularly 8-bit era computers, and if you're into your UK based 8-bit computers, they have an excellent selection. So do check them out if you need stuff. So this belt, as I said, it is quite thick in terms of its width, but also quite thin in terms of its profile. Hopefully this is the right one. I did try and fix this drive with a generic belt. It just wouldn't fit. I couldn't get one the right length, and because the width was wrong, it was falling off the little spindle. So hopefully this is going to work better. The drive, just take it out of its caddy. This particular drive is a Citizen drive. In terms of getting into it, a lot of them are very similar. You have to remove screws on the top metal shielding. In this case, it's this one here, which I've already done, and then you have to unclip the little kind of metal clip here, usually by putting a flat blade screwdriver underneath or getting your nail underneath, and that usually lifts off. Do it this way around because I'm right-handed, and then it tends to just lift away, and then the other side comes off. So the reason this drive is a little bit unusual compared to ones I've seen before is because of the positioning of the read-write heads. So they come in from the side rather than from the back, which is what I normally would expect to see when I take a drive apart. The drive itself looks in pretty good condition. It looks clean. It's very free-moving. I can't see any damage to it. So I think replacing the belt is going to fix this. At least I hope so. And then we can get that Amtrad back up and working. Oh, as a side note, I'm trying to find some disk images for this particular machine, the 9512 Plus, because it's unusual for an Amstrad and having a standard 3.5-inch drive, not a 3-inch Panasonic drive. So most of the images that are available for this range of machines are for the 3-inch drive. So I'm looking for some 3.5-inch ones, which I'll keep looking for. But if you do know where there's a good source of those, please leave a comment, because I'd be very, very interested. So let's move on. Let's try and get this belt in place. Now, there's no kind of shortcuts to getting these drives in. There are some drive assemblies where you can remove this whole top plate very, very easily by pushing to a certain position and lifting out. This one doesn't appear to be able to do that, so I'm going to have to remove the carrier for the motor. So what we need to do is remove this bracket that's holding on the motor. Try and thread the belt through here, around the little capstan that's here, back to the motor itself, reattach the motor somehow, and do that without losing any bits or breaking anything. So let's take these 3 screws out. Now, if you're doing this for the first time, 2 of these screws will already be out. So there. The one I've just taken out would be the one that would still be in. These two rear ones would probably still be taken out already, because you would have taken them out to open the case up. But it's only like this because I've been in here recently. So here's the belt we're going to use. So somehow we've got to thread it through there. There's different ways of doing this. The easiest thing to do to start with, I think, is to turn that over. Okay, which is easily done, but you just have to be really careful you don't break these wires that go from the motor to the motherboard. You don't want to be resoldering those, they're a little bit too fiddly. And in fact, you can see by the width of this capstan here, that's why other belts don't work. And the drive wheel under there is very thick and doesn't seem to have a bevel on it, so anything that is on the right side just seems to jump off. So let's give this a go. So this is going to be a little bit fiddly, but we're going to use gravity to help us a little bit. So we're just going to tip this up, hold that out the way but not dangling, and then feed this through. Now, because this is thicker than the one I was just using, immediately it's more tricky. I think this is going to require active pushing through rather than using just gravity. We could take out the two flex connectors for the head, the two heads. I'm a bit reluctant to do that, just on the basis that they may well be a bit weak. I don't want to knacker the whole drive just by doing that. So what I'm going to do is try and get the belt end through the gap that does exist. Being a nice new belt, it's also a little bit springy, so it is resisting. Okay, because I'm right-handed, I'm going to do it from this angle. So that capacitor's in the way a little bit as well, which doesn't help. We could go the other way, slide it under there, and then slide the remainder back this way. That's another way of doing it. But let's try doing it from this side. If I push that, that's not going to help. Okay, so we've got through the initial section. If I put the light on, it's quite hard to see the belt in the body of the drive. So if I put some lights on, this might help. This might make things worse, but let's give it a go. So drive currently just by the drive heads. If we move the head that way a little bit, I might be able to just pick it up with the tweezers, but obviously you don't want to be touching the drive heads. In my haste there, I just bumped the head, so you just need to be careful. Maybe I should put this one on first and then try and get that one after. Let's try it that way around. So if I just position this where it's ultimately going to be, just going to hook it around that little resistor, I think it is, and then just position this over the top. Okay, so that's in position. I'm just going to check, see if the band is round the spindle. Which it is, just about. Let's move it up. Okay, so it's in position. So let me just put these screws back in. at least 2 of them. The long one comes from this side, I think, from memory. If you're working on a small device like a floppy drive, it's worth having some tweezers handy just in case you do drop screws and things like that. You won't need to for most PC repairs. Most you need for most of them is just a flathead screwdriver, a Phillips screwdriver. But for this, you need to be a little bit more delicate. Okay, so that's in place. Let's put the other one in just here, diagonally opposite. That feels like it's the one that should go next. So that should stop the band from jumping off this end. Is it still there? It is still there. Hopefully it won't jump off when we try and reposition this middle part. So I'm going to turn around this way just so I can see the capsule. I don't know if you can see it in there. A shiny bit just under there. So the trick's going to be to keep it on here. This one's going to keep itself. Right. I've just thought of the ideal tool to do this. So, paper clip. Here's a paper clip can allow me to hook it through this hole and pull it over. Let's find out. Just put a little hook in the end. Just bending it around the screwdriver there. So it's got to have a little bit of a curve on it. Once I've hooked it over, am I going to be able to unhook it? That's the next question. Who knows? Will the hook even fit through the hole? Nope. Just make it a little bit smaller. So what I definitely don't want to do is damage anything inside. What I also don't want to do is damage the belt, because they're not expensive, but they're not cheap. Okay, so I've gone under the belt. I'm not sure that was the wisest decision. Let me put my fingers on there, just to keep that from popping off. Okay, well, it didn't work, but it wasn't a bad first attempt. I'm going to try it again. Oh, no, I lost it off the big wheel. So the problem with hooking it underneath is that it has a tendency to want to lift the belt, which is making it come off the other wheel, which is not good. And now I've got it in there, I can't get it out, but that's fine. It's just the angle. Okay, so I'm half over that. Don't know how well you can see that, and I'm half over this. So in theory, if I prevent it from coming off anymore here, hook that over at that end, I might be able to turn this wheel and just wind it on. So I might have to do this slightly off camera, just because of the fiddliness. Hasn't quite worked. You know, they say 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Unfortunately, in this case, it isn't going to work. I do need all 3 points on. So let's try again. Let's try again, but this time hooking from above rather than below. See if that encourages it to stay on the big drive wheel. Careful about the heads and the belt and the electronics and everything. Okay, so looks like we are close with the belt, but it's now got a twist in it. Not sure that that method is going to work. So can't get this belt over that middle wheel. So what I'm thinking is we can take this back off and try again. But what I'm also thinking is we can take the front cover off and try and pull it over the big wheel, big drive. Not sure what it's called. It's not a wheel, and put it from the front instead. If we take off this front cover, front covers are usually fairly easy to remove. They usually have a couple of clips, and this one indeed does. Has a clip here, a clip around this side, and a clip in the bottom. It's also got this return spring on the flap to keep the flap closed. So let's probably just undo that first. So just going to turn that and push it under. A little cut out there for it to come up. Let's push this side in. And that will tend to want to move forward. Same with the other side. There we go. Push this one down. In fact, that bottom one is for the eject button, not for the front panel, but we'll just get this panel off first. There we go. So we don't need to take off the eject button. I don't think so. I need to push that back on. So the reason I undid the spring is so that we can get this flap open more easily. It's still a little bit in the way, so let's just take it off altogether. So this is always a little bit fiddly because it generally involves bending, and this one actually looks slightly better designed. It looks like if you turn it to the right angle, it comes out. Nice. Okay, so let's see if we can pull this through from the front. So it'd be quite nice to keep it down under that somehow. I'll use a cotton bud, wedge that in there. That should stop it from coming over the top. Of the short silver shiny capstan in there. And then let's see if we can feed this over this drive wheel. I call it drive wheel. It's not a drive wheel, is it? Because it's not part of the driving circuitry. The motors the drive. Okay, so we're over 2 We're over 1. Still over 2, but the wrong 2. Okay. This might turn out to be a much better tool for this job, actually. So let's put it over this big wheel again. Put a finger on to keep it in place. Use that because it's wide. Got a better job of holding the belt. So close. So close. So it was on, but it had already come off this bigger wheel again. So close to being on. So I'm just inching that round. Okay, I think we have success. We're definitely on the big one, and we are now currently on the little one as well. So has it stayed on this one at the back? It has. Brilliant. Okay, so turns out cotton wool buds are more useful than I thought. We can use them for putting bands on as well. So talking of cotton wool buds, should we clean the heads while we're in here? Do you know what, they look really clean already. I'm a bit reluctant to go in there and clean them. Having said that, getting this drive out of the PCW is not easy. You do have to take the whole PCW apart to actually get at the drive because it's on the bottom. It's underneath both the logic board and the analog board. So I might as well do everything while we've got it out. I don't think I'm going to lubricate the head mechanism. That seems to be very, very nicely working. I don't want to over oil it and end up making it actually worse. So let's have a go at cleaning those heads with some isopropyl alcohol. So you want good quality isopropyl alcohol for this. You want 99% strength. The purer the better, and it doesn't leave any residue. So what you do is just get your cotton wool bud and angle it in there and gently clean the head. The bottom one is dead easy because I can get to it from above. Getting the top one done is much more tricky. In fact, it may even be impossible. It's just gonna put a slight angle in there. That feels like I got it. Lovely. So let's reassemble the fronts. So we've got the drive cover to go on. So we want the spring around this way. We've got to get the drawer in first, the cover in. So it goes in easily at that end. And this end, if you turn it to the right angle, it just popped out. The angle, I think, is the front. That's it. So let's move this over. Put it under and up through there. So it wants to stay open, but if we put this cover back on, we should be able to keep that in place. It's very slightly yellow, but not very badly, so I'm not going to retrobite this PCW, I don't think. There you go, there's a little bit of yellowing on the front, but the rest of the machine doesn't look too bad. That hasn't clipped yet. It's in the right place though. This side has clipped. This side hasn't. It looks like it's the eject button, which is not quite aligned correctly. There we go. There we go. It's now clicked in. Door wants to stay shut. So we've got one more screw to put in there, but for memory, you do that. Let's keep the cover on. So this one, the hole is big enough that it goes over the screw. This is the one that actually keeps the lid on. So let's just reposition that at the front. Slide it forward so it goes underneath the plastic. This clip comes onto here. And if we just put the screw in, we are basically finished fixing this Citizen UODC-45A, or is it U? Oh, either way. Let's put the last screw in. So in theory, we now have a working drive. We can reassemble the PCW. That's in another video, but thought you might find that useful. Just because it's a little bit different because the head's coming from the side. Just so you can see a different one. So about half an hour later I managed to reassemble the system, but I still didn't have any system discs to see if it was actually working. But thanks to some very helpful users on the CPC Wiki discussion forum and the Vintage Computer Federation forums, I did manage to track down CPM images on 3.5-inch disc. And so what you can see here is the normal Amtrad PCW boot screen. So it goes white and then you get these horizontal lines as CPM is loading. And then you're very lucky and get your text display. So I have now managed to source some images for this machine, both for CPM and for the Loco motive software word processor for this. So I have now got a fully functional PCW9512. So thank you for everyone who was on the forums and helped me with those images. If you've got any other images that might be useful, games or other productivity software available on 3.5-inch disc image, let me know in the comments below. I'll be very keen on doing some further videos on this very interesting machine. See you in the next video.